The meeting of the Thousand Oaks Council on Aging is now called to order. Commissioner Borghi, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice. Francine, would you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Commissioner Borghi?
Here.
Commissioner Fotheringham?
Here.
Commissioner Grimm?
Ready for another year.
Commissioner Healy? Here. Commissioner Loomis?
Mojado.
Commissioner Norkin?
Here.
Commissioner Shentes?
Here.
Commissioner Surden?
Here.
And Commissioner Wing?
Here.
Thank you.
All right, now is our time for public comments. First up is Brenda Birdwell from Senior Concerns. Brenda?
Good afternoon and welcome back, everyone. It's good to see all your faces again. My name is Brenda Birdwell. I'm with Advocacy and Outreach for Senior Concerns here in Thousand Oaks. And we have a couple things coming up that I wanted to let you know about. The first one is our speaker series that we have on a monthly basis. We'll start again in October, and this year it's about caregiving. So the second Tuesday of every month is when we have our series, and the next one will be next Tuesday. It will be at Senior Concerns at 401 Houghton Camp. It's from 4 to 5:30, and there's respite care if you have someone who needs to be cared for while you're taking advantage of the seminar. So that's going to be, the whole series this year is going to be on caregiving. So that's coming up. We also have a healthy living class that we teach that can be taught at any time as long as we have 8 people who want to participate. And there's a number here to call for that for the Ventura County Area Agency on Aging. Betty Berry has her column in the Ventura County Star every Wednesday. She has information on all things senior, and there's a lot going on right now with Medicare, so if you want to keep up with what's going on with the Medicare changes for 2012, you can take advantage of that. And then we have another program going on that's going to key in with the program for today. On October 22nd, we're going to have a seminar at Senior Concerns about making your choices for the end-of-life decisions. So that's going to be from 8:30 until 1 o'clock. All the sessions are going to be in Spanish and in English. If you want any information about any of this, I've left brochures on the table. I've also left my business card. And you can also go to www.seniorconcerns.org to see what's going on. Thank you very much.
Could you give that phone number again for the TV audience, perhaps?
The phone number for Senior Concerns is 805-497-0189. And Betty Berry and I are senior advocates at the Goebel Senior Center. That number is 805-495-6250. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Next up, Teresa Wolfe from Community House of Hope. Teresa?
Thank you for having us again. I represent our Community House of Hope. I'm Teresa Wolfe, the executive director of that organization. We are a nonprofit organization in the community, and we have spoken here before about our project, which is an end-of-life care home for those that are in their last 3 months of life that have nowhere to go and no money for caregiving. I kind of wanted to come, Jim asked me to come and update you as to our progress on this project. We are very close to opening our doors. Our license is in the pending stage, and we hope with some luck and prayer in the community that the Department of Social Services will come through for us with our license by November so we can take our first patient. We are excited and we are ready to roll. I was thinking today what to say, and every week I'm getting calls from the case managers and social workers at hospitals saying, "Aren't you open yet? We don't have anywhere to send this poor woman or this poor man." There's nowhere. There's no resources for these people that are at the very end of their lives and nowhere to go. Our police departments are reporting to us that they have 1 or 2 times a month, they're finding people, seniors in their homes that have died alone who haven't had anywhere to call because they had no family or no resources or no money to pay for caregiving. I was thinking about this, and I have calls from all over the United States asking, where did you get your vision? Where did you get your mission? And across the United States, it's popping up everywhere. This social model is popping up everywhere because of the universal need in America The gap in healthcare is growing wider and wider, and there's more and more people falling through that gap. So we are responding as a community. As a community, we believe in our community. We believe that together we can make this happen and we can make it successful. There's only one other social model in all of California, and that is in Santa Barbara, and it has been in existence because the city supported it since 1989. All of our services are free to residents. That means all of our services come from donations. We pay for everything as a community. The primary service area that we're covering covers all of Ventura County and parts of Northwest LA. That's a huge area. It's like 900,000 people that have not got any resource for this need. It is a social need that is going to have to happen. So many people say to me, I can't believe this doesn't exist. It's because we haven't been looking. It's just because we haven't been looking, not because we can't do it. We can do it, and we will do it. And with your support, we will do it soon. I believe that every person matters to the end of their life, to the last day. And I know you do too. As a first step, like I said, our house, we have a rented house. We're on 348 West Arbalest. We will be opening by November, we are hoping. We're going to be having a garage sale on October 15th. We'd like to invite you to come as a fundraiser. If you have anything to donate, I'll leave our information over here for you. That's October 15th. We're going to be having a membership drive as well. Each day of care in our home will be about $300 per person per day. And in a hospital setting, end-of-life care is $4,000 a day. So this is a huge saving to our community hospitals as well. So we are going to have this membership drive that is going to push for every member of the community putting in $300, because that'll cover 1 year of care for everybody. And we would encourage you to help and join us. In closing, I like this quote: "The goodness of a society can be measured by how it takes care of its weakest members." I love that quote, and I believe in that quote. Shop online. You know, I know what you're talking about, but it's not really connected to my website right now. But it's something we're working toward. Okay. Our website is ourcommunityhouseofhope.org, and our phone that you can reach us at is 805-492-OCHH. That's something you can remember. So thank you so much in helping make this happen, and we will be successful because we're a great community. Thanks.
Thank you, Teresa, for everything you do. It's a true blessing to our world here. All right, let's move on. Well, one of the things I'd like to do right now before we move into the main program is to introduce our newest member, Rita Wing. Rita's joined us for the first time. The rest of us are old-timers. And welcome. Happy to have you. We expect to get you to work real soon. All right, we come to the main part of our program, a very important program, Ending Well, the role of palliative care. I'd like to introduce our moderator, Dr. Lanyard Dial. Dr. Dial is the CEO and the medical director of Livingston Memorial Visiting Nurses Association. Dr. Dial is also a board-certified family service and geriatric physician. Welcome, Dr. Dial.
Thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure for me to have an opportunity to come and discuss with you a topic that's near and dear to my heart, ending well. And that's the phrase that I've chosen to pick to talk about a topic that is difficult to talk about for many people, but that's the end of our life. As the old saying goes, death and taxes. It's reality. We will all die, and I frequently will step in front of a group and say, you must recognize that each of you are a mortal person and will die. And when that happens, and you've lived a wonderful life, how do you end that life well? How do you die the way you want to? How do you die peacefully? And what is that way? And it's my contention, and we'll talk a little bit about that today, that current society is such that it takes some planning for you to end your life well. That where we're at right now in Ventura County and in our nation is a county and a nation that's struggling with health care decision-making around end-of-life issues. And so there's a battle, if you will, if you want to get there to figure out how will I end this well. And I would propose to you in our discussion that it takes some planning to do that, and that's what we're going to talk about. I've asked 2 other individuals in our community in the Thousand Oaks area to come and join me as panelists, and what I'm going to do is begin the big picture, talk a little bit about our country, narrow it down to our county, and then be very specific about the Thousand Oaks Conejo Valley area. So to help me be even more specific, I've asked these 2 individuals to join us and would ask them to introduce themselves.
Started our Palliative Care program just almost 2 years ago.
Good.
And I'm Lori Lifestyle. I'm president of Senior Concern, which is based in South seniors and loved ones, and have done so for the past 35 years.
Thanks to Kathleen and Lori for helping me. So let me paint the big picture for you here. I'll go back a generation, maybe 2 prior. Let's go back to the Civil War era, 1880s in the United States, and you were a loved one involved in that time and saw your loved one be injured during the war of the Civil War, and it was highly likely that that individual died of whatever that wound was because they got an infection in that wound. Whether or not it was a cannonball or a gunshot that took their life immediately then, or more likely damaged them such that then the infection set in and they died soon after. In that same time frame, if you weren't involved in the war, your average life expectancy was 40. Our society was such that we didn't have vaccinations, we did not have antibiotics, we did not have medical care as we know it today, and that life ended for many people at and before the age of 40. Our families were such that we had 5, 10 children in the family because 1, 2, 3 of them would die before they reached ages of teen time. So we lived in a society where death was something that we saw, understood, if you will, accepted, that there wasn't magic that can be done. If you were walking down the street at that time frame and your heart attack happened and you keeled over, we didn't know what to do. You died. If there was a gunshot happening and that gunshot hurt you, we could not do major surgery and fix that person. That person died. In current society, if you walk down the street today and you keel over, people are going to try to do something. They're going to call 911. They're going to have an ambulance come, whisk you away, take you somewhere to do something. And will that something have you survive? Will that something end up in a better outcome? Potentially. That wasn't even an option back in the 1860s, 1880s. I'll fast forward to World War II because virtually nothing changed in our society between the Civil War era and World War II. By the time you hit World War II, we had discovered magic drugs. Insulin was discovered in the 20s, really started being used more in the 30s, and by World War II was relatively standardly available in the nation, so that individuals who had diabetic issues could get insulin treatment and live. Antibiotics were just being discovered. We had found sulfa and penicillin. In fact, there are ads that you see around the World War II time of your loved one will now come home from the fight and live because of penicillin. Because World War I, that didn't happen, and the Civil War, that didn't happen. So in the World War II era, with antibiotics, with insulin, with now an understanding of surgical techniques, you now begin what I'll call modern medical care. Medical care that over the last 60 years has got us to a point at which now If you have an infection, you do not expect to die of that infection. You expect to go to your physician, have a treatment rendered, get on an antibiotic, and get cured from that. You expect to be able to go to the hospital and have a surgical procedure that will alter whatever illness you have, your gallbladder attack, your appendix attack, and you will live through that process. We have the ability now in modern medical care to transplant virtually every organ in your body. Your kidneys give out, your liver gives out, your pancreas gives out. We can replace those. What that has done to us as a nation is altered the way we die. Because no longer do we die with an illness that used to take our lives because we couldn't do anything. Now we try to fix it. And we may be able to 100% fix it, and it's over, and it's done, and it's gone. But much, much more common is you're living the rest of your life with an illness that creates another problem that you have to take another medicine, you go back to the hospital, you're getting care ongoing. Classics. You have bad lungs, chronic lung disease. You live with that chronic lung disease because we have medicines and treatments that can help you. Should you get a pneumonia that takes you into the hospital, I can put you on a machine that breathes for you temporarily and give you antibiotics and help that pneumonia clear out, and you get off the machine, you get healthy, and you go back to your life. Should you keel over outside today, likely a 911 ambulance will come, maybe resuscitate your heart, probably get you to a hospital where they will then do stuff to figure out, have you had a bad heart attack, can we fix this, maybe get a catheter up in you and unblock that artery so that now you go on to live. But you have arterial disease of your heart. You have lung disease that's bad enough that you could have died from it. But medicine, modern medicine, is such that we keep you alive to do that. That gets me to the ending part, which is, when does then all this accumulation of disease take your life? Because your lungs will eventually give out. Your heart will eventually stop. Your diabetes will eventually not be able to be controlled so that you will die of the complications related to that diabetes. Your cancer, which historically we couldn't treat, we can now treat. We've got amazing chemotherapies, amazing radiation treatments. We can virtually keep you going for 5, 10, 15, 20 years where we couldn't do that before. So we have transitioned from what used to be deaths related to illnesses that we couldn't treat into deaths now with an illness that we've been treating for a number of years. When does that illness get to the point where it's getting closer that it will take your life? When does your bad lungs become terminal and you're going to die of those bad lungs? We're struggling as a society in medical care to answer those questions. We currently have hospitals across the nation and in this community with patients in an ICU or in the hospital where we're doing our best to try to make you better, and we know we're failing to do that. When do we admit that as a physician, that our treatment isn't working any longer, that we can't any longer keep you alive? When do we say that? When do we get into those discussions? That concept of death moving from something we couldn't fix to stuff we fix but now takes a toll on you on a longer way is a last 15 to 20 year idea in this country. We now are starting to recognize that dying is much harder than it used to be, and we need to open up that discussion. So we created a durable power of attorney form that I'm sure you all have heard of and talked about, in which you can write down what you want should you have a need to have somebody else speak for you or you can't speak for yourself, and have a discussion now about, if you can no longer swallow, would you want a feeding tube? And if you can no longer interact with your family because your disease has taken away your brain's ability, do you want to have a ventilator put on you if your lungs give out? Many of those kind of decisions are now being talked about and asked, so that if you're going to end your life well, you need a process by which you think through this with someone so that you and we are all on the same page. And even having those kind of discussions doesn't guarantee you're all on the same page. You will have those discussions with your loved ones and your families, and you'll write it down, and you're now in a hospital where the doctor says, I don't agree with that, I think I could do this better. Or has the discussion that says to you, you wrote this, this is what you said, but right now, if I don't put a tube into you, you won't be able to breathe, and I think you should have that tube right now, don't you? And you may say, well, I'm not sure. Well, let me tell you, we don't have 2 minutes to make this decision. So I would recommend right now we put the tube in. And I'll tell you, there are many people that get intubated and get treatments in that form, in which at the very end, you may have been very clear all along, it changes. I've had a very clear durable power of attorney written by a family member whose daughter said, I can't live with what Mom wrote and can't agree with it. So I will make the decision and go this way. I will say, yes, Mom wants a feeding tube and we want it put in. We live in a society today in which the decisions about how you die are very difficult decisions. They are not easy for all of us to talk about because we don't expect it to happen. It's, if I get sick, I can go to the doctor and they'll fix me. I've got a hospital here and they can help me. And I'm here to say, yeah, for a period of time, but you will die. And how will that be for you? And how can I help you so that it's the way you want it? How can I help? So here's some suggestions and thoughts. When you're healthy and doing well and feeling good, start talking to friends, families, and loved ones about who you are and what you believe and what you want and what you think. I used to think, personally, that I wanted my death to be what many of you right now think, which is I would like to die by not waking up someday. I want to go to bed and just not wake up. I want to be a lemming model of dying. I want to walk to the edge, do very well, and then fall over. I've changed that because what I now recognize, having dealt in death and dying for a number of years, is what's important to me in my death, and what I'll bet is important to you in your death, is the health of those that you leave behind. You're going to be gone. But you have spent your life raising your children, dealing with your family, enjoying your friends. And what you would like to do when you leave is leave them intact as much as you can. You know you're going to die. Is your wife, child, best friend going to be okay? You're gone. How do you help ensure they're going to be okay? Well, if today driving home you're in a car wreck and you die, the grief that's going to be in your family will be enormous because they didn't have time to say goodbye to you. You didn't have time to shape that end of life for yourself. Your life ended like that. The lemming model of I'm going to be just fine and walk to the edge and fall off sounds pretty good because you're gone and you want to be okay until you leave. But who you leave behind when you fall off that cliff suffers a lot if they don't know you're going to go to that cliff. So dying peacefully and comfortably involves leaving those behind you with a knowledge that you're going. And you're going to be okay and you know they're going to be okay. So I'm now switched. I've gone away from the not wake up and the lemming model to I want to die a longer death. I want some time to be able to say what I want to say to my family. I want some time to be able to make sure who I'm leaving behind knows where my resources are, knows where they can get stuff that I've gotten, know how to deal with what I want. I want to have those discussions. And it's very hard to have those discussions when I'm not dying, so that when I do die, they remember them, and that the grief isn't there. I've sat at bedsides with families and people who are dying and watched them be at very great peace over this. I've seen and I've heard from many the stories of once you see the end coming, there's a great peace. There's a great understanding of it's okay. And who you leave behind sees that. I believe that for whatever reason, God could have given us the ability to have a child in 2 months. But no, he made it 9. He said, we're going to let moms carry these babies for 9 months. Why? I have no idea. Here's my proposal. It takes a little bit of time for you to get ready for this kid. It takes a little bit of time for the family to understand a baby's coming into this world and I need to do this and I need to plan, I need to think about it. That doesn't mean when they come in you're ready. I get that. I've been there. They come into the world and you're never ready and prepared. But there's a period of time between now and then when you know that's coming. I use that in death. There's a period of time you need to prepare to die, that you need to be knowledgeable about what's coming in order for that to be a peaceful event. We struggle right now with how to help and make those decisions. What I've advocated here is a communication that's larger than what we've done before. That's an acceptance and an understanding. I think physicians are in a terrible position trying to help and deal. They haven't been trained well. All the physicians in practice today have been trained in an environment in which death is not an accepted thing. Our medical schools do not have curriculum around death and dying to date. Some are starting those, and maybe in the last 5 to 10 years you're hearing a little bit more of that. But it's been absent, and the majority of physicians who graduated after the mid-'80s, early 90s haven't had any of that training. And so their knowledge base and information is, I know how to save a life. I know how to do what I do to keep people going. And how do I have those discussions that allow that not to happen? As you heard, I'm part of a hospice program, and hospice as a movement began back in the 60s, but it took decades before it became a word that most people even had an idea what it meant, and that most physicians felt comfortable with the language of it. So the word hospice has been end-of-life care. It's really been the design for how do we take the last 6 months of people's lives and help them through that process. And it works, and it's a good program, and it's a very active program. Many people don't even want to talk about it because it's talking about dying. And so what happened in the last 10 years was the National Hospice Organization and others recognized we have a problem in our country where people don't want to talk about this. And if we're not discussing what's going on, we end up with tremendous problems. But the hospice word and the dying are too hard of concepts. So we're going to change our language. And they developed a new language that, again, is around 10 years old in modern medical care and isn't understood by many people. And that language is to call things palliative care. Palliative care sounds softer, and it also does not necessarily imply death, as hospice does. So the National Hospice Organization changed its name to the National Hospice and Palliative Care Organization. And the logic of palliative care is, can we bring into the environment of chronically ill people a discussion about what they would want at the end of their life? Can we bring in some of the symptom management and symptom control issues that we work on in hospice care into people who aren't dying yet, into people who have serious chronic disease and yet aren't quite on their deathbed, if you will? So the movement happened and is in great force in this community to have a discussion that uses the language of palliative care. It has really been brought in initially in hospitals. And hospitals across the country right now, close to 60% of them have a palliative care program within that hospital. So that patients who come into the hospital with a serious chronic disease can have a palliative care person involved in that discussion. I have mixed emotions here, as you'll sense, because what we've done is say, all the other doctors in the hospitals and all the other doctors don't have to have that discussion because now we have a specialist who can come in and do that. So you've taken some of the responsibility away from the physicians who historically have been the oncologists, the pulmonary doctors, the ICU doctors, and said, you don't even need to have those discussions. Just call the palliative care consultant. They'll come and have that discussion. So that's my disconcern, or my concern about it, is that I wish we didn't go that direction, but we have to, because those discussions aren't happening. And so we now have, at our local hospitals, and virtually every hospital in Ventura County has a structure for a palliative care consultant. And now the hospital's medical staff and nursing staff are getting used to saying, here's a person who has the need to begin these kinds of discussions. Let's call this consultant to come in and start that. Right now, it's very limited outside of the hospital. The visiting nurses have a palliative care outpatient program associated with it in the home care setting, but it's limited because there is no recognition of what it really is to have funding and support for it. So what you end up doing is trying the best you can to begin these kinds of discussions with patients in a hospital and then as they move out. Obviously, the hospital is a logical choice in the way our health system's set up because that's where most of the money for our health care goes. And it's where people with chronic, serious diseases end up at some point in that process. But because it's so new and because hospice is so end-of-life pushed, the discussions that start to happen in palliative care are really difficult. They begin typically with, and I've helped a number of these palliative care programs set up, so I've been intimately involved in them. It begins typically with the doctor saying, I can't have the discussion, this person's really dying, will you come talk to them? Okay, I can do that. My role is, and my hope is, we could get to the person long before that's there. But yeah, I can help here because you're not comfortable with here. We have a person who's in the ICU on a ventilator, and they're dead. And we should stop that ventilator, but the family won't let us and doesn't like it. Can you come meet with the family and talk them through this so they understand it better? Okay, I can do that. In the discussion as I've led you so far, you can see that's really end of life. That's not palliative care. That's not helping people who have chronic illnesses. But because now the resources available in the hospitals for these physicians to tag into, they can ask and aren't comfortable getting in those discussions even at the very end of life. And so we're slowly working backwards on this. So palliative care in the hospital has taken on the role of dying care in the hospital to some degree, and then backed up into helping people who have chronic illnesses who aren't there yet have those beginning discussions. So you will hear about hospice care and palliative care. Hospice care in our community in Ventura County, I've painted the big pictures in Ventura County, exists in a variety of services. And you heard earlier today the idea of, does Ventura County really have a place that you go and die? No. And that does exist in a number of communities in the United States. We don't have a building that this is the hospice building where you go to die. In many communities, they have a building with 5 beds, 10 beds, 20 beds, 100 beds for people where that is the building in which hospice care happens. Big in this state, Marin County has one, San Diego has one. Some of the largest hospice facilities in the country started there. The closest, as you've heard, is up in Santa Barbara right now, and it's a relatively small facility, and we're looking to try to get one started locally. Other than that, hospice or end-of-life care is done in patients' homes. It's done in the nursing home setting. It's done in the residential care facility setting. And in rare cases, it's actually done in the hospital. in which hospice care comes into the hospital to help people die. So that's hospice-based services. We're the agency that does it in a nonprofit way. We're the other nonprofit in this community that does hospice-related care. So these services are available to anyone, irrespective of their ability to pay. Palliative care, as I've mentioned, is based in hospitals. The first hospital in Ventura County that started palliative care was St. John's. Catholic Healthcare West had other models of palliative care that they have used in other parts of the country, and they began then a program at St. John's Hospital in palliative care. That program was successful in trying to get others in the community to understand that it's okay and acceptable to have these discussions, and they began their program about 7 to 8 years ago. The second hospital to bring palliative care in was Community Memorial, and it brought a palliative care team in, and I helped set that up now about 4 years ago. And its nascent start is doing okay. It's now starting to go backwards a little bit on managing more palliative-like patients. Ventura County Medical Center started a palliative care program 3 months ago. Los Robles Hospital started its palliative care program 2-ish years ago, almost 2 years ago. That's the state of the art in this community. St. Simi Valley, as best as I know, does not have a palliative care program yet, and that rounds out all our hospitals. Because I believe that the Thousand Oaks City Council and Council on Aging should understand its local resources, I asked Kathleen Griggs to come, because Kathleen is the lead nurse for the palliative care program at Los Robles Hospital. Kathleen?
Okay. So we started our program in February of 2010. So it's still pretty immature, but really building well. What my goal is to make it be the bigger picture of palliative care. Sorry about that. Which is to have also the symptom management piece really recognized more within our facility. We do some symptom management with patients who not necessarily dying but have a lot of pain, and we're looking at how can we help them with that right now. They're going to continue, or they're going home and they have problems with congestive heart failure, and how can we manage that better so that they don't have to come back in, because I feel sure that most of us don't want to be in the hospital very much, and that's not my favorite place if I was a patient. So we're trying to build more into that. But as Dr. Dial was saying, we really are kind of a pre-step to hospice in a lot of situations, or into the dying process itself. So we will come in. We can be called in by families and patients. We can get a referral from our physicians, which is what most programs go by, but I also hear about patients from the nursing staff and the case managers. Then I have to go to the physician to find out whether or not it's okay to deal with them. But a lot of the things that I see as being very important within my role and within our role at Los Robles is for families to start talking about this. What do we want? What's important to us? And for everybody to start talking to their family members of what are the most important things to you about your life and how you want to live it and how you want to end your life too. Because there's a whole range of ways that we die in this society, as Dr. Dial was saying. And there's a lot of angst about it if we don't talk about it. So it's really important for us to discuss this with our loved ones, and I think the earlier we start it, the better. And I think that we all realize that if we're 40 years old and we're thinking one way, we could change our mind at some point, and that's okay. But we're going to keep our family members up to date so that they don't have to guess at it, or they don't have to go by what they think is important. I see a lot of this with family members who don't know. They'll tell me, I don't know what my mother wants because she's never told me and I've never asked. And so they're struggling with, how do I make this decision? I can make it by what I think, but is that really what she wants? And my bias is always, it should be what the patient wants, the person who is potentially dying or is involved in a situation where we're looking at, do we want to continue down this road, do we want to go down a different road? I think it's always good to think about it in terms of what they would like to do. That's how I always express it to families. I say, what does your mother want? What does your father want? What have they told you about what they want? And I think it's really the most helpful also when we have it written down. So I always talk to, I actually bring this up a lot with families even when it's not the right time for everybody. I say, you really should talk about this. You really should get this. You really should think about doing an advance directives. Or now we have something called a POLST, which is the Physician Order for Life-Sustaining Treatment. And I think it's really important that we look at these things and talk to our families and talk to our doctors and try to make our wishes known, and knowing that things can change and we can change our minds. Nothing's set in stone just because we decide this is what we want right now. But have it in place, have it discussed, because it's, becomes a potential burden on your family at a later date if they don't really know and they have to make the decision, and it's very, very difficult for them. I think that when you're talking with your physicians, you need to explore, because chronic diseases are now really, as Dr. Dial said, what we're dying from. We're not dying from pneumonia. We can treat that. Pneumonia used to be considered a death. You just die of that. And now we can treat it. We can keep people going. And how far do you want to keep going? Or how far does your loved one want to keep going with that? Do we want to, and I never try to influence people on what they want. I try to say, these are your options. This is the way it can go. And we try to be realistic about things, and sometimes we're not correct about what we think is going to be the next step, but we talk about it and tell people, nobody has a crystal ball, nobody knows exactly what's happening, but these are the things that may happen. These are the if you choose this path, this is what you're likely to find if you go down it, or if you go down another path, you're going to have possibly these things to look at, and really talk about it with them. It's really helpful. It's really important. I feel very passionate about it. I feel that this is really something that I want everybody to think about, and I want people to move in this direction early. I don't think that you necessarily, like I said, put something in stone, but you really have to start thinking about this. Being a nurse and working with a lot of patients for a long time, and my background is oncology, I started thinking about this probably long before a lot of people did, and I made my wishes known to everybody in my family and set up everything the way I want it, and with the realization I can change. And I've discussed this with my physician too, okay, this is what I'm putting down, but I may change my mind here and may not want to do this or may want to do something different. But getting it out there on the table and acknowledging it, as a relative of somebody, it was the most helpful thing that I had available to me, to know what she wanted, to know that I could speak for her and give her the death that she wanted, not prolonging things, not doing something she didn't want done. And, it's a continuous thing. It's not one time right now.
Jim,
anyway,
did you have a
if
question?
you want to utilize our services at Los Robles, we're there for you. This is something, and we don't have an outpatient type of facility. A lot of places do, and I think that would be a wonderful thing to have. And maybe sometime in the near future we'll be able to offer that. As Dr. Dial said, I frequently utilize the Livingston VNA Hospice and Palliative Care Unit. I like the Palliative Care Unit for people who are still in treatment but need the symptom management that they're not going to get as well from just home care. So I think that that's a very good piece of things, because we can do palliative care without having to tell people you're going to stop treatment. And unfortunately, the way hospice benefits are set up right now, if you want to continue with treatment, it's frequently impossible for you to get a hospice coverage on that. They want it to be when you're not going to get actual treatments, curative or even sometimes palliative, like radiation therapy, which we frequently in oncology will call palliative, because we know we're not going to cure you, but we'll make you better and you'll have a better life down the way. But that would put you out of the hospice piece at that time. But palliative care, then, I can use them to help you. And that's what I like about it.
Jim had a question.
Yes.
Yeah, I was curious, when you're talking to someone, do they get is it a general type, I don't want life support, or is it a procedure by procedure check off kind of a list? How detailed do you get, and how much difference does that make?
I tend to get very detailed, particularly with patients who are making a decision. Usually I've worked with people for a while, and we start out general and then work into exactly, what these things could be. I tell people all the time, it's not an all or nothing. It's you have choices all the way along. Do you want to have to be intubated, have a tube put down to breathe for you, but you don't want to have cardiac compressions and you don't want to get the shock? There's all kinds of options. We don't have to pick all or nothing. And so I generally go that way. When I have somebody who's choosing, and I like to make sure that I know that they really are choosing this, and so I will go through and I will be very, try to be very kind about it, but I'm pretty blunt about, okay, so I understand that you don't want to continue with these therapies anymore. So what we're planning on doing is that we're going to stop this. If we stop this, this is what may happen. We also can stop this. And one of them that comes to mind immediately is the feeding tubes. If we can, I talk to patients about and their families also. If we stop the feeding tubes, this may hasten their death because they're not going to be taking anything in. It won't prolong their death then, but we're not doing anything to treat anything anyway, so you have the decision to make. Now, you can go ahead and continue that feeding tube, though. It's not an either or.
Do people come to you or to people doctor, that just have a very general type of a statement, I don't want to be kept alive artificially or something like that? Is that dangerous? Does that leave doctors options that they might not?
Well, I don't think it's dangerous, but I totally agree with Kathleen that the more specific that you can get for specific things, the easier it is for us to help you with those decisions.
Yeah, I'm curious about how that normally shows up. Do people have that kind of detail?
Yeah,
or is it
and I
more
would say
general?
today in 2011, the vast majority of people we're having these kinds of discussions with have an illness that's advanced to a point at which the options then become clearer.
Okay.
The options are, they're getting to the point where we know they're not going to be able to eat at some point down the line. So the discussion of feeding tubes becomes appropriate. We know they need at some point to have their lungs supported with intubation. Do you want to continue to do that? You've had that happen once or twice to you and you've been able to get off that machine and now are breathing okay. Do you want to do that the next time? And many people will get to the point where they said, I've done that 2-3 times and I don't want that anymore. I'm tired of this. And so that's how we start those discussions and get specific. Nick?
Kathleen, Dr. Dial had mentioned a durable power of attorney and gave some examples of its limitations. You mentioned post forms. Could you go into some more detail on how the post form is similar and different from the durable power of attorney, and does it address these deficiencies?
Okay. Yes, it's a little more specific than the general durable power of attorney forms are. However, when you do your durable power of attorney for health care, you have the option of making it more specific. There is some people who actually will spell it out more detailed about what they're willing to accept and what they're not willing to accept, whether or not they're in a coma or in a vegetative state. The general form usually talks, there's a phrase usually in there that talks more about that. But then other people will come in and they'll say, if you can't get, if I'm not going to get any better, then I don't want this or whatever. But you can actually be more specific in your format and there in your durable power of attorney for healthcare. And I would say that at this time, the vast majority of the ones I see are not as specific, but so we have to interpret a little bit. But I encourage people to think about the more, what does it mean beyond that?
And the PULSE form does have a specific question about artificial hydration and nutrition, and a specific question about CPR built into the form. So the PULSE is a little more specific.
Well, my understanding is the critical aspect of the PULSE form is it is signed by your physician and therefore carries the power of a medical order.
It is.
And that leads me to a question that I have that I don't expect you to have an answer for, but I think we probably all ought to find an answer, and that is that I had a PULSE form completed within the last month, and 2 weeks later my physician died. So is that PULSE form still valid, or do I have to have a living physician who is assigned it for it to be valid?
Well, the way I understand it, it's still valid, but you probably should get a living physician to sign it, because sometimes that will be, the way they teach about the PULSE form is they say that sometimes the physician may want to speak to your physician before he follows the form. So that's why.
I don't know what the PULSE form is.
Okay,
Could someone come in?
The PULSE form is the physician order. It is an order. It's a pink, bright pink. I'm sure somebody has them around here.
It stands for Physician Orders for Life-Sustaining Treatment. So that's the POLST. It is a set of questions that are asked to a patient, and the answers to those are then documented on this form. Do you want this? Do you want this? And it's hydration, CPR, comfort measures, aggressive treatment measures, all on one form. You sign it once you've answered those questions, and the physician signs it. It then can go with you and with your physician record wherever you go. So if you go to the hospital and it goes, it's an order form for that next physician to see that your doctor's already signed these orders with you and this is what you want. It's an attempt, in my opinion, to fix some of the issues of the durable power of attorney, create something more that we can augment our discussion with and have there. And I think you heard earlier that Senior Concerns is going to have a conference coming up following this discussion to talk more about some specific issues, and the discussion and availability of a PULSE document is part of that discussion. There are statewide trainers in PULSE education that go on and are in various venues, and one of them will be at that program.
One other quickie. If you show up with nothing, you have none of these things.
Yep.
But you're judged to be of sane mind. Can you say what you
Absolutely.
want?
Yes.
Any person of sane mind can make a statement on what they want, irrespective of if they have a durable power of attorney or don't. The problem you get into in medical care is the decisions of a sane mind are couched by and affected by what's happening right then, and what you're being told by the individual care providers who are there. So it's hard to know what decision will be made at that point and how that decision will be carried out. Kathleen and I just talked about an individual who had a very clear durable power of attorney that said they did not want to have feeding tubes or ventilation. And when they got into the hospital with that document already completed, the patient was counseled and worked with a physician, and the ultimate decision there was, no, I've changed my mind, I want to have that done. And so that's what happened. Now the person is in a state in which they can no longer make decisions. Now their durable power of attorney says, I know my dad, I know what he wanted, he would not want this anymore. And the physician says, well, but he told me just minutes before we did this that this is what he wanted. So now I'm going to do this and not pay any more attention to you. Huge problems. And that's the issues that we deal with, where the durable power of attorney and the PULSE cannot fix how we're ending up dying without having more involvement. of your family, your loved one. Everyone needs to know and be on the same page. If everyone agreed and everyone was on the same page, it's likely that your death will be what you want it to be.
How does the 5 wishes form?
Yeah, same idea. It's another document created long before even the durable power of attorney to try to have a discussion and lay out what you would like. And what I can say is because of the 5 wishes, because of the durable power of attorney, because of the pulse, all of those have failings where they're not followed well and they're not carried out. But they have augmented our discussion as a society and have helped a number of people. So they, as individual things, are good things.
There's one other problem that has come up with respect to all of that, and I ran across it in a very non-problematic circumstance. But it turns out that despite what you may say about non-resuscitation, there are a bunch of forms out there, and I was confronted with my first one during a colonoscopy the other day, that said no matter what your desires are with respect to resuscitation, we're going to do what we think is best anyway. And I don't know, what do? Put across your chest in an indelible thing, do not resuscitate, no pedals?
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. That's, I hope you heard one of my contentions is we are currently in a societal state that is not where we need to be. We have gotten there because of the wonders of modern medicine and all the care we can do, and yet death has not been accepted and understood and there. So no matter what you tell me, I'm going to do what I think is the best thing for you is a concept we hear a lot. And as I'm out educating physicians, and I spent a lot of my career educating physicians, there's always a few who say, I hear what you say and you're wrong.
Well, actually,
because I'm not going to do it that way.
Los Robles hands you that form when you go in. The same thing happened when I had a stent a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that the patient in this particular point cannot specifically say, this is what I want, this is what I don't want, because he or she will already have been presented and likely will have signed a form that says, I understand that, despite my wishes, you're going to go do this anyway.
I have something to interject on that because yesterday I was going through our policies and procedures at Los Robles, and I found an appendix and to one of our policies and procedures that said that you can be a no resuscitation when you have these procedures. The problem is finding a physician who will go along with that. A lot of them will not do the stent, the colonoscopy, if it isn't.
One of the things I haven't touched on, but I do want to because it's a key part, is we're currently living in a society in which half of the people over the age of 85 will develop a severe dementia. Half of our population over the age of 85 will develop a dementia. And that's a huge problem that we confront with where does that leave us in the discussion about end-of-life care. How does those things happen? Because an individual who slowly loses their ability to remember and think will die of that illness in a period of time. But how long? And what will take their life? And more likely, through that time, they will develop a pneumonia. They will develop an infection. They will develop the need to have a feeding tube. And so the discussions about those items need to come up as early as you can and are going to be now had with a family and the individual who has this disease. And you usually don't pick up this disease until the ability to have those kind of logical decisions are difficult. So that's a huge component of what's going on in our society right now. In fact, when you look at nursing home care or you look at the struggles we have in hospitals, it's related to someone whose cognitive, whose brain function isn't working well enough to make good decisions about what they want, and no one has had this discussion before with them. And the family isn't sure what to do. So we, and you see it, live in a society in which we have nursing homes filled full of individuals that can't swallow well, can't control their urine, can't control their stool, can't recognize their family, and we as a society believe that's a livable and okay thing. If I'm filling out my durable power of attorney today, and I'm telling you what I want, I never want to be in a place where my brain isn't working, I can't control my stool, I can't control my urine, and I can't swallow. Don't you dare put a feeding tube into me. If I get an infection, let me go. We haven't had that discussion 20 years ago. So we have a population right now that are living in that terrible position, and families who feel extremely guilty about what to do in that setting. So it's a huge elephant in this discussion. I'm hoping maybe in 10 years we'll have a cure. Maybe modern medicine will figure out what this illness is and how to stop it. But that isn't in a good sight right now. We are not close. So it is likely that everyone in this room will get a disease that we can't fix. And that disease will take your mind. And it's now the point at which you start having the pulse discussion of, if I get to that point, this is what I want or don't want. And it's okay, child, loved one, to let me go at this point, because I don't want to be in that setting. So that's a huge bugaboo in this whole thing. Question? Yes?
This is more about the nuts and bolts.
Yes.
Don't forget. I'm a new hospice volunteer, so I'm just learning myself. But a lot of people will say to me, well, how does a person get on hospice? And I have a patient now who I know there's definitely money issues. I don't think they're paying for any of the hospice care. I mean, her family really couldn't afford to, but it's great. And what would be the difference in how you would get your hospice diagnosis that would get it paid for, and your palliative care diagnosis, and would that also get paid for?
Yeah. The palliative care piece doesn't have a clear national definition yet and doesn't have a clear payor source yet. So it's being done because all of us feel it's the right thing and we have to figure it out, but it's not clarified yet. Hospice follows rules set up originally by Medicare back in the 80s. They've modified the rules a little bit, but they're pretty much set. Every payor for hospice-related services has followed the same set of rules virtually. So the rules are one. Now, that being said, that is the medical model of hospice. And you probably are familiar that when hospice began, it wasn't a medical model. Medicare was not involved, private insurance was not involved, and because it was such a good idea and there was no payer, like palliative care, the nation of people created hospice, and they did it. And they did it as a volunteer organization that raised money and just provided care. Those types of volunteer organizations that don't accept or take Medicare money still exist and provide hospice-related services. Because the payment Medicare model and medical models stepped in, we now have two models in the society. The model of general hospice services that are not a medical model typically provide volunteer services and support. The medical model provides hospital beds, medicines, equipment, doctors, nurses, etc. So it's a care design model, and that's why it's got money to pay for it. So there are those two. The rules for the medical model is you must have a terminal diagnosis believed by your physician, whoever that is, and it can be any, that it is a terminal illness likely to take your life within 6 months. It doesn't have to take your life within 6 months. It just has to be likely to do that. And when you're 2 months into it, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, that doctor continues to document and say, this illness continues to show that it will take his or her life. And we have hospice patients who've been on care for a year, 2 years, but they continue to have a terrible malignancy that should have taken their life. But you know what? We're not good at this. We don't know when it's going to go. And so you stay alive on hospice care. We bring on to hospice care individuals with, as an example, bad Alzheimer's disease. They get a bad infection. The family's made the decision not to treat it, and they come into hospice care. They don't get any antibiotics, and they clear the infection, and they get better. And now they're still living. Should they continue on hospice services? And Medicare or payers go, no, because they're not appropriate. They're not now dying within 6 months. They go back to whatever the lifespan of their Alzheimer's disease will be. So the rules and regs around medical model hospice care are very specific. It starts with a physician order to get you there. Does that physician order come because the physician recognizes it and brings it up? Or does it come because the patient brings it up? Or does it come because the family brings it up? Or does it come because Kathleen brings it up? The answer is yes. It comes because anybody can bring it up, but it has to have the physician order to start it. From that point forward, that physician can still be involved, may still be the primary person, or it may transition to the hospice physician, because the hospice physician is the one who works day in and day out with the nurses who are providing the care for the hospice patient. So both happen, both models of that happen. For palliative care, Kathleen, to see the patient, needs an order from the doctor, please come evaluate my patient. So if a nurse or a family says, Kathleen, would you see my loved one in room something, Kathleen still needs to go back to the physician to get an order to say, I'll see that. We're not allowed to just walk into rooms and say, you don't look well, can we talk to you? Yeah, that's just the way it's currently set up. Yeah, you're welcome. One of the things that we discussed as we talked about bringing this program to the Thousand Oaks Council on Aging was one of the issues that many patients get into is, where do I get more information about this? Who do I turn to? Who knows about hospice programs and palliative programs? Where is there a spot? And actually within Thousand Oaks, you have a unique spot that can do that. And that's really why Lori Lytell's here as the president of Senior Concerns. Senior Concerns is based within your community and really is a tremendous resource for people who want to ask questions about stuff like this. So, Lori?
Yes, hi. Senior Concerns is working really hard to become a one-stop place for aging and frail seniors and their loved ones with any resource that may be needed for those seniors. We've been in business for 35 years, and we provide many, many services. So a large and wonderful program we have is an adult day program, which serves seniors with 3 levels of frailty: mild, moderate, and severely impaired. And they're for seniors that have Alzheimer's disease, other kinds of dementia, and other kinds of frailties. And it really provides a respite for family members so that they can go to work and so that they can ensure that their loved one is in a safe place. As everyone is talking about the durable power of attorney, this is something that we're seeing all the time at Senior Concerns. We're seeing family members who are very, very stressed over not knowing if their family member did not do an advanced healthcare directive, what their wishes are, and really struggling with that. So one of the things we're doing to respond to that is actually we're in the process of setting up a free legal program at Senior Concerns, which will happen sometime during the course of the next probably 6 to 9 months, where we're going to have people in the community, from the community, seniors and their caregivers as well, be able to come in, see an attorney, have a free appointment, and be able to do an advanced healthcare directive, a power of attorney, and a simple will. And so we're in the process of finding attorneys right now to do that work pro bono for us and to be able to offer that to the community. So I think it's very timely in this conversation to let you know that we're working on that and we're going to get it going this year. In addition to our day program and our and the legal program we're going to be starting up, we also have a Meals on Wheels program. Meals on Wheels program provides homemade meals, the only place in all of Ventura County that does that. We prepare the meals fresh daily, both at our own kitchen and Los Robles Hospital. And volunteers deliver 364 days a year, 2 meals, 1 hot, 1 cold. And as all of the programs at Senior Concerns, they are for anyone in need. So we do ask for donations, but if someone cannot afford what we offer, they are scholarshiped and they're not turned down. So we do not turn down people for inability to pay, and we have seen a great rise in people with an inability to pay in the last couple of years. Another thing that we do is support groups for caregivers. A really, really important thing that we do is caregivers go through so much emotional turmoil when a loved one is going through an Alzheimer's disease or dementia or any other kind of frailty. It raises so many emotions for those people and so many stresses. So we do a lot to provide emotional support through counseling and through support groups, and we are in the process of creating wellness programs also for caregivers. One of the very major things that we do at Senior Concerns is care management, and the goal of that department is to help the senior live at home independently for as long and as well as possible. And to that end, our care managers, which are in 6 locations now. We're at full-time at Senior Concerns, full-time at the Robles Center, and part-time at Simi Valley Senior Center. 2 apartment buildings, soon 2 senior apartment buildings, and soon to be the Moore Park Senior Center. So we're covering the whole Conejo. And those individuals that are there are able to help seniors with whatever resources they need to be able to plug into, to be able to get the resources so that they can live home and have the best care possible. We are plugged into all of the resources in our community, and we have lists and are able to provide whatever kind of resource you need. Our care managers are really good at that. So there's always more to do. In the coming year, we're intending, probably in July of 2012, we're going to be setting up a free grocery shopping program for seniors, which is going to be a volunteer-based program, but another thing to hopefully help seniors to be able to stay at home and live at home as well as possible. So we're trying to do as much as we can. There's never enough help. And there's really no one else, no other nonprofit in our community that really is addressing these needs exactly. So we're trying to really expand as much as we can the services that we are providing throughout, again, the Conejo, and as far as our advocacy programs throughout the whole, all of Ventura County, we are providing services. So it's a lot of work, and we're really up to the task and excited that we're in a mode of growth at our organization and going to be providing more and more care.
So, in summary, what I wanted to bring to you was the understanding of where today we are in terms of death and dying, and where today options are for how you can discuss that, open that up, have that issue. On a national level, there's no question in my mind we have some of the best health care in the world for everyone as well as seniors. We can replace valves in your heart when you're 80 years old and have you survive that surgery so that you can live longer. We can bring you new hips, new knees. There's so many things that can be done. But at some point, you will die. And at that point, we want it to be as peaceful and as comfortable as it can be. The only way, given where we're going in this medical maze, is to begin those discussions as soon as you're ready to have them with your physician, with resources that are available to you in the community, with documents like durable power of attorney and post forms and 5 wishes. There's a lot of things out there, and we just want to make sure people know about it. I've taken the big picture of where our country is, tried to bring it locally to Thousand Oaks in specific. You have in this community a great resource at Los Robles Hospital that knows about palliative care, that can help. We provide, as others, hospice care in these communities, and then you have Lori and Senior Concerns who can help you tag into any of those services that you need. So that's sort of the crux of the program we tried to put together for you. Questions?
Well, I was curious. Questions have come from the panel. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to ask any of the panel members about the diet question? Please, one at a time. Yes.
Can I get you to go to the microphone? Otherwise, the TV people can't hear you and it sounds kind of silly.
Hi, my name is Pat Douglas. I don't really have a question. I have comments. And my mom is 87 years old. She lives in New Jersey, and I'm in the process of trying to move her from New Jersey to California. And when my dad passed away about 10 years ago, she definitely had her will in order, and she had her durable power of attorney and whatnot. And so I've been running around trying to do the long distance thing of coordinating a move from New Jersey to California, plus try to work and go to school. So I am so glad that I discovered the Life Planning Network. I'm so glad I met Jim and Francine and Lori, and I just think that everything that you're saying, it's stuff that is so valuable to so many people, but people, you're right, they wait till the last minute. And I know my mom said to me, she says, I want you to come here and look at everything that I have. These are my wishes. And my reaction was, oh my God, I don't want to, I don't want to do this. But then I stopped and I said, I have to do this. So I'm really thankful that I came to this today, and I'm glad that I met people like Lori in the past and Andrea Gallagher and just everybody that's here that does wonderful things to help people that are aging and our seniors, because, we have to value our parents, and we're all going to be in that position at some point in time. And my mom scared me so much in December that I ran out and I got a will and I got a power of attorney and whatnot. And in finding a doctor, I didn't know about the Pulse? The Pulse form. So when she has her first visit with her new doctor out here, I'm going to definitely sit down and talk to him and her about that, because it is scary and people don't like to talk about death and dying, but it's an inevitable part of life. So I just want to thank you all for the wonderful work that you do, and Lori, I will try to volunteer at some point in time and help you out, but I'm so swamped right now with everything that I'm involved in. But I just think it's just a worthwhile cause, and people do need to get
Anytime
involved.
you'd like, we'd love to have you.
Okay. Well, thank you
Pat.
so much. Thank you.
Yes, Dean.
Yes, I didn't have a question so much as a comment. My very good friend died 2 weeks ago, and some of you knew him. His name is Oscar Parton. He was 98 years old. I met him when he was 92, and he learned how to play pool then. That's how I happened to meet him. But I'd just like to say that he lived here in Thousand Oaks with his son and his daughter-in-law, and that there was just a wonderful, wonderful relationship with these people. Now, if Oscar were here today, and I want to pretend he is, he'd like to say just a few words about Thousand Oaks and his last 6 years of life. He went to the Global Senior Adult Center virtually every day that he could possibly go. He ate there. He met something like 50 friends that he had never known in his life. You've heard the Cheers song, I think it's the... yeah, right. Well, if you went to the Global Center, Oscar used to go there, and everybody knew his name, okay, and they were always glad he came. And he was also under the hospice program. And the volunteer that went to visit him, I'd like to personally thank, is his name is Nick Fotheringham, and he's one of our council members, and I'd like to give him just a short hand. Thank you, Nick. Love you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Doctor and panel. It was just, we have one more question. Yes. Microphone.
And when he was with Kaiser, and early on, he was definitely dying of lung cancer, and they brought up a number of times, any of you guys can answer this, that he would be well served to go on the Kaiser medical model hospice program. She would have been so helped by this. he decided that if he went on hospice, that would mean he was going to die. And is there any way that you can, I mean, is using the term, we're going to put you on more palliative care?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I think that would be the standard today, is that we would be talking to him about, then let's go on to palliative care.
Okay.
Now, it's also not uncommon for us to be involved with hospice care and hospice services in a setting in which the family say, don't tell my loved one that they're dying. Don't mention the hospice word. But we want all the services, and we want to do all that. And that works. It's not good. It's not right. It's an awkward setting to have an individual who's dying and the loved ones and family don't want to have that discussion with them. Because what I think you will find is most people, when they get to that point, know it and know that they're leaving. And it's easy to open that door with them there for the family to accept that. Now, if the individual says, I don't want to deal with that, then palliative care would be the next logical choice.
And thank you all very much. All right, we'll move on to our liaison reports. First report is VC-AAA. Would that be you, Nick?
I have nothing to report. Leonard, do you?
Leonard? Is that a no? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't see the nod. All right, RSVP, Gene. Oh, I'm sorry. That's Martin, isn't it? Where's Martin? There he is. I'll get this right after another.
Well, it's only the first meeting of the year.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't expect too much right off the bat. Anyway, RSVP wants you to know about something called Trail Work Day. It's going to be held on Saturday, October the 15th. And if it rains, it'll be the following week. They meet between 7:30 and 8 o'clock at the Caneo Community Center, which is at 1175 Hendricks Avenue in Thousand Oaks. And transportation will be provided from there to where the trail actually is. You work on the trail from 8:30 to noon. No experience is necessary. The tools, training, and equipment and supervision will be provided. Then the volunteers will be treated to a thank you luncheon after that. As well, there will also be some great door prizes. If you're interested, contact RSVP at 381-2742. Or you can hit them with an email at rsvp@cprd.org. And the other thing, it's hard for me to believe this is coming up so soon. I don't know where the year went. But next month, RSVP will have their boutique holiday sale from November 7th to November 18th. I thought it's not summer anymore, is it? I don't know what happened. Anyway, I'll tell you about it again next month, I'm sure. Thank you.
Welcome, Andrea. Good to see you again for our first meeting. Andrea will be updating you folks on what's going on at Goble.
Oh, most definitely. We've got quite a few things. I just wanted to kind of pick up from the last conversation of the whole program with Senior Concerns, the advocates being at Goble Senior Adult Center. So if you do have a loved one or you've just moved in the area and you don't know where to go find some services and whatnot, walk into the Goble Center and you can either have an appointment or you can wait if they're busy, or you can even make a call in, and the phone number for that one would be 805-495-6250. And you could call and leave your name and number and a message, and they will get back to you and then make an appointment. So besides going to Senior Concerns, as Lori had said, you can also see the advocates at the Goble Center. So just wanted to follow up so people knew that you can just walk in and you can call. So anyway, lots of good stuff coming up. We've got a little new series called Today's Economic Realities and Unrealities, and the first one started today at 12:30 to 1:30, but it will be running 4 to 6 weeks, depends on how it goes and how much is out there. But that should be a really good series to attend. And this Sunday, the rain will have stopped, and we will be having our community garage sale, which is then a fundraiser for our nonprofit that helps support our center. And so come to shop. We still have a few spaces left, so if you wanted to get rid of some of your stuff from the house, we have a form, and you can sign up and participate that way, or just come have fun and shop. And hot dogs, yes, we'll be doing actually donuts and coffee in the morning, so if you show up really early, those will be there, and we'll be doing hot dogs, chips, and a drink. So if you're hungry while you're there, you can also get that stuff. And again, that'll be a fundraiser for our commission as well. Betty Berry is going to be doing an Understanding Medicare for 2012, and that's going to be on Monday, October 17th at 1:30 to 3. You do need to call into the center to make sure you have a seating reservation. Those are always very popular, and once it's full, it's full. So definitely call us. I'll give you the phone number at the end here. If you play table tennis, ping pong, we're coming up with a table tennis tournament, and that'll be on Wednesday, October 19th from 8 to 4:30. And you can register for that. You can play singles or doubles or both. And then RA Answers, so rheumatoid arthritis. It's going to be a very good informational seminar about rheumatoid arthritis, how it presents itself, some different diagnostic tools differentiating between rheumatoid arthritis versus just regular arthritis. And person doing that is going to be providing some snacks as well. A new fun program we've got is the Meaning of Opera and the Fun of It. Got a really awesome guy from the LA Opera volunteering, and he meets on the first and third Wednesdays of the month. And the one meeting tonight is All in the Family. So it's opera families are just like everybody else's, and be talking about all the different people and families in opera. And then on the 19th, and it's called And Now for Something Different. So they'll be looking at the many aspects of operatic genre and the beautiful and captivating music, and how it's been creative and how it weaves in and out of our life. We've also got a Master Gardener series coming up, and that's actually going to be November 5th, letting you know now, so in case you want to make reservations for that one. And then in November as well, Betty will follow up with Medicare one-stop shops. So those are the things that are classes and programs that are coming up. And then trips. So our trips will go on sale October 14th, so next Friday. And most of them are all on the holiday theme. So Christmas is, which will be on December 10th, but we start taking registration. So you'll get a motor coach, get to go to Tam O'Shanter's, have a great lunch, and then reserve seats for the performance. Also going to do Newport Harbor Parade of Lights, but that's also going to include the harbor, some time to shop. You get to go to Rogers Gardens and see their Christmas fantasy display, and then you'll get a 30-minute or 90-minute cruise around the harbor and get to see the Parade of Lights and the houses and all the other boats. And then Christmas in Laughlin, staying at the Riverside. And they always have a really big production there for that. So that will take place on Tuesday, December 20th. So you get to go out there for a few days if you so choose. So those are the trips that are coming up. And if you need to call for anything for the Global Center, it's 805-381-2744.
Thank you, Andrea. A question on the Laughlin trip. Are all the reindeer included as far as propelling a person or propelling the group over there? I mean,
yeah. You'll get that motor coach with the reindeer going down the freeway. Yeah.
All right, good to hear. That's an added attraction, all right.
All right, we'll move on to Commissioner comments. Commissioner Northeringham? I got that good, didn't I? At the end.
The Council on Aging is about to kick off its third year of implementing the Senior Adult Master Plan. We have currently 6 different committees of volunteers that are in charge of that implementation. If you have an interest or think you might have an interest in working with one of these committees, we're having a kickoff breakfast a week from tomorrow on the 13th, beginning at 8:30 in the morning. If you are interested in joining us at that time, please call Francine Spriegel at 805-447-2743 for 449-2743. And to get a reservation, and she'll let you know the location at the time you make the reservation. Thank you very much.
David?
August 15th introduced a lot of changes into our transit system here. Affects seniors very directly in the sense that I encourage every senior to get a Dial-A-Ride card now. There's a lot of things to learn about it, and you can pick up brochures at a lot of the areas, Global Center here at City Hall, the Transit Center. But it behooves the senior to look at this because there is a lot of things going on that will, I think, make it a lot easier, more economical to travel within the Caneo. So we'll be updating more in the future, but for immediate information, you can certainly access the City of Thousand Oaks website and look under the transit system, and you'll get an idea of routes, charges, and how seniors with a dialer card can ride free on a lot of the bus systems now.
Thank you, David. Yes, Andrea.
Just want to let you know you can buy your Dial-A-Ride tickets at the Global Senior Adult Center. They're $2.25 a piece, and we take cash, no checks. So come with cash. No checks, no credit cards. Don't have a way to process that for the city. We also have the new pamphlets. We also have the new route maps for the buses. It's simplified. It's much easier to use. I've actually figured it out. So that's a boon. And the way you make your reservations for Dial-A-Ride has changed somewhat, too. So if you're coming into the Global Center for the first time and buying tickets or just got your Dial-A-Ride card and need a little extra help, I can explain that to you so you don't get caught even paying an extra $1. So got a good reservation system going. And you can ride the bus in Thousand Oaks for free with a Dial-A-Ride card, as well as coming to lunch at the Global Center.
Harry?
Thank you, Jim. I'd like to make an announcement of a birthday of a person who's very near and dear to me, my wife Eileen, who's celebrating her 85th birthday today.
My wife is also having a birthday today, but she's not 85 yet, and we're still counting those rings.
I mentioned earlier in the program that my primary care physician who signed my pulse form had passed away, and I wanted to acknowledge the many years of service that he provided to me. His name was Dr. Mark Starr. Many of you may have seen Dr. Lowe's commentary to him in the Star a few days after his death, and that's about the time I first learned of his death. I took him on as a physician because my primary medical problem is sleep apnea, so pulmonologist seemed like the right type of primary care physician, and he took care of my mother as well, and he had a good reputation, which I have no personal reason to doubt, of always being a little aggressive in his care for his patients, and whenever he found out one of them was in the hospital, he insisted on being there when it was humanly possible. So I very much appreciate his care and regret his passing.
We heard, and we've said a lot of times, that we run a 50% chance of having some sort of dementia by the time we're 85. One of the people in a group that I lead at my church was diagnosed with dementia with Alzheimer's disease about 6 months ago. So on a whim, I said, would you sit in a forum and tell people at the forum what it's like to get your Alzheimer's diagnosis and what that has meant in your life and the changes that you've gone through, and would you be just abrupt and to the point and curt and tell us what it's like? And he said yes. So anybody out there that would like to join us at 11 o'clock on Thursday the 20th at the Church of the Epiphany, you can come and hear a very articulate and bright fellow talk about what it means to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's. We ask if you plan to attend to call and make a reservation so that we can be sure to have something for you to eat afterwards. And the phone number is in area code 818-991-4797, and say that you want to reserve for OWLS, which stands for Older, Wiser Laity. I hate the acronym, but that's what it stands for. I suppose I don't have enough feathers to be an owl, but in any event, one more time, on the 20th of October, that's a Thursday, 818-991-4797. October the 20th at 11. Yes. Thank you.
After the SAMP breakfast on the 13th, the Council on Aging is going to be involved in another activity, the street fair that's held on the 16th, the following Sunday. We're going to have a booth there, and for a lot of you folks, we'd certainly like to have you come by. One of the things we want to try to emphasize, the Council on Aging is always the forum to understand what seniors are looking for to improve their quality of life here in the Caneo. So we're going to have, as part of our booth, a place where folks can write down different ideas or issues. And we're having sort of a wall, our own wailing wall, I guess, if you wish, where we're going to have folks put up a wishing wall. Well, it's Halloween. There may be some wailing, too. But we want you folks to stop by. We'd love to talk with you and get your ideas so that we can keep formulating ways, developing the issues that are important to you and to our community. So it's a street fair. Look for us then on the 16th of October. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, I'd like to mention that our next program, which I believe is going to be on November 2nd, here in this room, is Betty Berry. So we expect a full house, so get your reservations in. Oh, heck, just show up. People follow Betty everywhere she goes, so there'll probably be a busload of people show up. But Betty will be talking about what she knows a great deal about, and that's Medicare and Social Security and all of the various and sundry things that go along with that the rest of us don't seem to understand. So I would encourage you to either attend in person so you can ask questions of Betty, or make certain that you watch the show. Anyone else have any other comments or special events? All right. This meeting's adjourned. Ouch!